The curtain has come down on the 2023-24 Premier League campaign, with Manchester City making history by clinching a fourth title in a row. 12 months ago, Riyad Mahrez was part of the Blues trophy celebrations, but after the Algeria wingers moved to Saudi Arabia, the champions no longer have any Africans in their senior squad. Here, BBC Sport Africa picks out a few players from across the continent who have caught the eye, for better or worse, over the past 9 months. Some could attract interest in the transfer market, while others will have new managers to work under when the new season starts in August. The winners: Yoane Wissa, Brentford. In a disappointing season for the Bees, Wissa's 12 goals were vitally important in helping to stave off a relegation scrap. By far his best haul in England, he led Brentford's line manfully during long spells without the suspended Ivan Toney and injured Brian Bumo. The forward managed all that despite missing a month of the season at the Africa Cup of Nations, AFCON, where he helped DR Congo to the semi-finals before a defeat to eventual champions and hosts Ivory Coast. No longer a bit-part player, it will be interesting to see how much the 27-year-old can push on next season, especially with Toney expected to depart.
Nicolas Jackson, Chelsea.
The Senegal striker had a roller-coaster first year with Chelsea, who remain a work in progress despite a staggering $1.23 billion, £1 billion, spent on transfers since Todd Boehly's takeover. Jackson scored just twice in his first 7 league games, while picking up a suspension along the way, before a hat-trick in a chaotic win at 9-man Tottenham. The 22-year-old struggled to make an impact between November and March, but his form at the end of the season, chipping in with 4 goals as Chelsea won their final 5 games, hints at a brighter future for the West African. However, whether Mauricio Pochettino remains in the dugout or the Blues decide to sign further attacking options could affect his game time at Stamford Bridge. Mohamed Kudus, West Ham. The Ghanaian has burnished his reputation as an attacking threat following his big money switch from Ajax. After a betting-in period, Kudus hit top form in December, and a trademark goal celebration that sees him sit on pitch-side advertising hoardings has become a common sight for supporters. The Black Stars endured another early AFCON exit, but Kudus ended with 14 goals and 6 assists in all competitions for the Hammers as the club missed out on European football next season. Julen Lopetegui is set to replace David Moyes in charge in East London, and the Spaniard will no doubt be keen to keep the 23-year-old should bigger clubs come calling once the transfer window opens.
Antoine Semenyo, Bournemouth.
Bournemouth's performances under new boss Andoni Iraola surprised many, in the form of Ghana forward Semenyo perfectly encapsulated that transformation. Quick and relentlessly hard-running, he gave defenders a torrid time and turned himself into a regular starter. Add in 8 goals and it becomes clear Bournemouth picked up a bargain when they spent £10 million, $12.7 million, to bring him in from Bristol City in January 2023. The 24-year-old's robustness was also proven by the fact he barely missed a match, featuring in 33 Premier League games and 10 internationals for the Black Stars. Honorable mentions go to: after a loan spell in Belgium last season, Simon Adingra netted on his debut for Brighton and ended with 6 league goals. But the 22-year-old's crowning glory came with Ivory Coast at AFCON, where he netted a late equalizer in the quarterfinal against Mali and then set up both goals in the final as the Elephants sealed their 3rd continental title. At the start of April, Everton were on a club record run of 13 Premier League matches without a win and staring down the barrel of relegation. Step forward an unlikely hero in the form of Idrissa Gana Gueye, who scored 3 times in their final 6 games, turning back the clock to produce some sparkling performances which earned the veteran Senegal midfielder a new contract. Meanwhile, this was the campaign Ryan Aït-Nouri came of age, turning himself into a first choice for both Wolves and Algeria. A huge threat going forward, the 22-year-old left-back has been linked with moves to all of this season's 3 title challengers. The losers: Mohamed Salah, Liverpool. For a man who was the top-scoring African this season with 18 Premier League goals, it may seem strange to see Salah's name among our losers. Netting just once in his final 7 league outings meant the 31-year-old finished with his lowest tally since joining Liverpool in 2017. Salah's season was derailed by a hamstring injury on Egypt duty at the Nations Cup, and he also missed the League Cup final win over Chelsea. Then came Liverpool's Europa League exit in the quarterfinals and a very public bust-up with departing boss Jurgen Klopp as the Reds' title challenge faded away. Champions League football is assured as Arne Slot heads to Anfield yet. With suitors in Saudi Arabia lining up, will Sulla be looking for a fresh start?
Yves Bissouma, Tottenham.
Tottenham began the season under new boss Ange Postecoglou in great form and were top of the table at the end of October. Then came a 5-match run without a victory before Bissouma sat out the last 3 games of 2023 through suspension, having picked up a second red card of the season. A bout of malaria impacted the midfielder's performances at AFCON, and Spurs missed out on Champions League football after a run of 4 straight defeats in April and May. Bissouma was absent from the final 2 games of the season with a knee injury, which could also rule the 27-year-old out of Mali's 2026 World Cup qualifiers next month. Sofiane Amrabat, Manchester United. As one of the key men in Morocco's historic run to the 2022 World Cup semi-finals, Amrabat was expected to boost United's midfield options after joining on loan from Fiorentina. But the 27-year-old only started 10 league games as the Red Devils recorded their worst-ever finish, 8th, since the English top flight was rebranded in 1992. Erik ten Hag's side also crashed out of Europe early, and Amrabat was sent off as a much-fancied Moroccan side were upset by South Africa in the last 16 at AFCON. United's last hope of continental football next season is to beat rival City in the FA Cup final. But whether they pay the €20 million, $21.7 million, £17.1 million to make Amrabat's deal permanent is another matter. Issa Kabor, Luton Town. On loan from Manchester City, the 23-year-old failed to make the impact many hoped he might. Although it is fair to say his campaign was somewhat derailed midway through by AFCON and a hamstring injury picked up not long after this return. Kabor made 21 starts, mostly as a right wing-back, and provided 2 assists as the Hatters were relegated. He will now return to a team of title winners, but the Burkinabe's long-term future at the Etihad must surely be in doubt. Dishonorable mentions go to Manchester United paid nearly $60 million, £47.2 million, to sign Andre Onana from Inter Milan last July, and it is safe to say the jury is still out. The 28-year-old did well to keep 9 clean sheets behind an ever-changing defense, a figure only one behind Manchester City rival Ederson, but there were also a series of high-profile errors. Meanwhile, only arriving on the day of Cameroon's first AFCON match was a bad look, and he started just one of his nation's 4 games in the tournament. Ivory Coast's Ibrahim Sangar had a much better AFCON, featuring in 6 of 7 games, but his impact at Nottingham Forest following a reported $38 million, £30 million move from PSV Eindhoven was less than expected for a club record signing. The central midfielder made 13 starts in a struggling team, contributing no goals and no assists. Sheffield United signed 3 African players ahead of the season, but, like the club itself, they all struggled badly. Algeria fullback Yasser Laroussi came in on loan from Troyes and managed just 6 league starts, meaning it must surely be doubtful that the Blades will now trigger the clause to make his move permanent following relegation.